After dozens of crashes killing innocent Americans, California decides it's a good idea to reverse course and reissue 17,000 immigrant commercial driver's licenses that were recalled. This seems like a good idea, said no one. Let's get into it. Here we go. So you've got this back and forth of, well, under the Biden administration, who gave out work permits, federal work permits, like candy on Halloween back in the 70s, there's a little problem with sometimes these folks get deported, or sometimes their deportation comes before the driver's license expires. So you've got these dates where the feds are saying one thing and the individual states are saying another. And the individual states saying, oh, let's just let them drive. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? You've got New York issuing these kind of licenses, commercial driver's licenses. You've got Washington State. You've got Texas doing it. Because on the federal level under Biden, they said, it's okay. Just give everybody a license. Should be fine. Well, it's not, because we're seeing the end result of that. And literally, I'm going to show you a story in a second, and I've covered this. Now, let's just go there right now. Yeah, there it is. Washington refused ICE, let criminal alien trucker go after 6-car pileup. Department of Homeland Security. The dude was driving an 18-wheeler. It's a car carrier. Big rig, right? Car carrier. It had a bunch of cars on it. Didn't have a commercial driver license. Didn't have insurance. Didn't have necessary health card, I think it is. And he was illegal. And Washington State Patrol just basically let him go because Washington State is a sanctuary state. And the guy, it was a massive wreck, and it involved a school bus. Fortunately, there was no kids on board. No kids on board. But huge 6-car pileup on I-5 the morning of December 4th in Lacey, Washington, which is just down south here in Olympia. So you got things like that going on. Meanwhile, here's California. Oh, yeah, here you go. Here's your license back. Now, what happened is there was threatened to have their funding pulled by the feds. And they're like, oh, we got to take your license back, which arguably they should have never had. But now they've basically gone the other direction. No, we think it's a good idea. I mean, what shenanigans could possibly go wrong here? The Newsom administration has confirmed that it is preparing to reissue commercial driver's licenses to around 17,000 immigrant truck drivers whose credentials were previously set to be revoked. California DMV will begin the process of reissuing the contestant licenses. Details about how the process will work have not been fully clarified. Drivers received 60-day cancellation notices on November 6th after a review found mismatched expiration dates between the licenses and federal work authorizations. If you can be deported, should you have a federal work authorization? If you're not here legally, if you're not a citizen, all right, I understand. We want to get people to work. But what we're looking at is oftentimes folks that can't read and they can't speak, and they're sitting for the test 10 times because they don't know what they're looking at. They're just hoping somebody says, hey, you know what? This is your 11th time. We're just going to pass you. And then those folks get in Iraq and kill people. And that literally happened in Florida with a guy who had a commercial driver's license from, I think it was New York. It was either New York, California, and Washington, or some combination of that. It was that dude that, did the U-ball on the freeway, 75 mile an hour freeway with his 18-wheeler. You know what I mean? It's like, what? You doing what? He just nonchalantly looks back as cars just pile up, killing 3 people. Many affected licenses were for drivers who had renewed work permits, but the DMV records were not updated. U.S. Court of Appeals issued a stay. They basically said, nope, these guys are good. It's all good. They've got a federal work permit. Put them to work. Let's get going. Somehow the whole commercial driver's license thing just makes me afraid. Because there's so much liability. It's not like they're sitting behind a desk pushing a pencil, right? The worst thing could happen is, they stab somebody with their pencil. No, you kill people out on the open road with a massive rig. And you've seen the guys get out of these big trucks in just their flip-flops. This is just how I roll. Barely speak English, right? And you're just like, what is going on? Well, they can get work authorization and get right to work. Can we do that in their country? No. Hell to the no. No. Right? And there's a reason you have that. There's a reason you have that. It's because there's safety issues. There are massive safety issues, especially driving trucks. Now you might say, yeah, but John, it's going to bring the trucking industry to its knees. Does that mean you just ignore all the rules? Is that what you do? No, you don't. You enforce them. Federal officials examined non-domiciled commercial driver's license, which are issued to non-citizens without permanent U.S. residency. Their investigation found at least 17,000 California CDLs with expired dates that did not align with the holder's authorized legal status, meaning, boop, they could be gone. But you know what? Let's just go ahead and give it back to them anyway. We covered this one. This one was just, there it is, right? There's your end result. Perfect. No commercial driver's license, no insurance, no health card, no residency, just nothing. Guy's got nothing. But we just went ahead and, get out of here, Tiger. Let's go out and get back in that truck and see if you can crash into somebody else again. It's wild stuff. Here's Sean Duffy. I've shown this clip, but this is kind of the heart of the matter. Why this nonsense just shouldn't be happening. Here we go.
We have states that are giving out commercial driver's license.
This is our guy here in Florida. It just, cars just ran into me. Weird. Why's that going on? Wow, you're doing a U-ball on a 75-mile-an-hour freeway, and vehicles are just literally right in the back of your truck.
Candy. And I think if you ask every single American, what do you expect from a commercial driver? They would say they're well trained. They are professionals and they're going to keep their rigs and every car around them safe. And what we found is that's actually not the case.
That's us right there. That's Washington. That's Lacey. Oh, terrible. Terrible. And so this guy basically walks scot-free. He's been charged, but they won't hold him for ICE. They won't hold him for ICE. Can you believe that? To me, that is just like, it's not something you just brush off and go, well, it's not like some kind of small infraction. You're literally, look at these rigs, these cars. They're smashed. This car is just absolutely destroyed. So lucky nobody was killed, right? Like the other wrecks where people were killed. And Washington State, in its dementia, in its liberal, mentally challenged position, which is we're a sanctuary state, we don't work with ICE. It's just terrible policy. It's horrific policy.
We have states that haven't driven safety. They have allowed people who should never have a commercial driver's license. They are not well trained. They are not well certified. And they're not even from the country getting the license and operating, again, an 80,000-pound big rig on an American road. And so we are not going to have it at DOT. These are long-standing rules. These are not new Trump rules.
Yeah, that's something we need to focus on is this isn't anything new. Just like deporting criminal illegals isn't anything new. Who was the deporter in chief? Obama. Barack Hussein Obama, right? Deporter in chief. You deported, 3 million during his time? And people are complaining Trump's, doing just a scooch relative to what Biden brought into the country. These are laws that have been in place forever, and they're just, we don't really need them. Hey, what about those people getting killed? You have to ignore the story because otherwise you'd have to take responsibility and go, yeah, that's pretty much wrong. And ICE is deporting criminal illegals, even if they're not criminals, haven't been convicted of anything. If they're here and they've got a deportation order, I'm sorry. That's just how it goes.
These are long-standing rules that the last administration refused to enforce. We are going to enforce them. We are going to hold states accountable. And if they don't comply with the law, we are going to pull federal funding. We shouldn't have to go that far. Every governor should say, you know what? I want to have a safe road. I want safe drivers. And this should be a no-brainer for them. They should want to work with us. But it seems like the liberals, Harris, in liberal states would prefer to side on the illegal migrant side, non-English speaking side, as opposed to the American citizen safety side.
100%. And so here's the flip side to that. And I've got a full podcast that's coming out on this. And this is literally from NPR. This is that polar opposite of what California is doing. ICE arrests in Oklahoma continue to rise with the help of local law enforcement. A Republican mayor, Republican counties, Republican cities, Republican governor, and they have their local law enforcement, they have state patrol work with ICE to get the criminal illegals out of here. I just don't see the downside, right? You're having the law upheld. You're not having your police force like in Portland, like in Seattle. Oh yeah, we don't work with ICE. We don't work with deportation orders. We don't work with that. And you're like, why? Oh, because it doesn't match our values. Well, what are your values? What are your values? Are your values okay with people without a license that are here illegally killing innocent Americans? Are you okay with that? Oh, no, of course not. Well, then what are you going to do? We're just going to let them all go. Just going to let them all go. So this was a case. You had Operation, what was it? Operation Safety. The names that Oklahoma has. And in Oklahoma, my parents live in Oklahoma, so I'm down there. I've been exposed to that. But in all of the news stories that I read, the polar opposite of what I deal with here in Washington State, specifically in Seattle, and what I see just to the south of me in Portland, Oregon, and in Oregon in general, and then further down the road, California, the polar opposite of this absolute nonsense going on the West Coast is what Oklahoma's doing, which is they're literally having their state troopers hang out on the Arkansas border and pull hundreds of trucks over and, hey, you got a commercial driver's license? Oh, you don't? Huh. And you're not a legal citizen? Yeah, okay, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. They impound the truck and have the owner of the truck come get them, and ICE takes them to a facility in Tulsa. Yeah, that's called enforcing the law. I don't know why this is so difficult. It blows my mind that you've got entities that are all worked up that the law is being enforced. That's what it comes down to. Democrats don't want to enforce the law. That is where we sit. Democrats do not want to enforce the law because they think that innocent criminal illegals are being deported when in reality, you deport as many as we're going to need to offset what Biden sent into the country. You're going to have some mistakes. You're just a numbers game, right? Numbers game. But the vast majority, if they've got a deportation order, boop, out they go. Out they go. No more shenanigans. We just gone. It's not that hard to figure out, especially if they're driving a big rig and they've got lives at stake. You've got lives at stake. Multiple people getting killed in these accidents. So to me, you've got what California's doing, and then you've got what Washington State's doing, and then you've got what Oklahoma's doing. And you're just left with, how did we get here? How did things get so far apart? Because when I was a kid, you didn't have this kind of dichotomy where federal law enforcement didn't really match up with local law enforcement. It was all about enforcing the law. But now we kind of pick and choose which laws we want to follow. Immigration, let's let them come across the border. It's all good. We'll give them a little number to, say that they're in the country legally, and just bring them on in. Bring them on in. Doesn't matter how many million you bring. Oh, yeah. Oh, they're robbing people. Oh, they're And the list just goes on and on and on, right? And now the big thing is commercial truck drivers, because it's a thing, because innocent Americans are being killed that don't need to be. That's the thing. They don't need to be. So, you want to try and defend that with, well, at least they're working. Yeah, but maybe they're taking a position that somebody else who's here legally should have, and that can read and speak the language and pass the test. Right? I mean, it's just not that difficult, is it? So here's what that Oklahoma sting looks like. Let's take a quick peek at that.
Wages by some 70%. That's a conclusion by the feds, came after this Florida crash in August, prompted a deep dive into actually who's driving America's 18-wheelers. According to Secretary Sean Duffy, sanctuary states like California and New York and some red states are giving Biden-era asylum seekers commercial licenses.
The process for issuing these licenses is absolutely 100% broken. It has become a threat to public safety, and it is a national emergency.
Duffy highlighted crashes across the country like this 17-car pileup in Texas in March, 5 dead, including an infant. The driver, an asylum seeker from Eritrea who spoke Ethiopian, now indicted for manslaughter. And in New Mexico, this big rig makes no attempt to stop, killing one, injuring another. The driver, according to court records, only spoke Mandarin.
Our highways are full of what we believe to be hundreds of thousands of improperly licensed commercial truck drivers, a lot of them being illegal immigrants.
Last Friday, Duffy ordered states to stop issuing CDLs to any non-U.S. citizen or lawful resident. He estimates 190,000 non-domiciled truck drivers should lose their license. An audit found California issued 25% of its CDLs illegally to immigrants. Now, in Oklahoma, a highway checkpoint found 20% of truck drivers were illegal immigrants. Some licenses had no first or middle name.
The vast majority of those people had crossed the southern border into the United States between 2020 and 2024. And all of them had crossed on the southern border.
So states began issuing non-domiciled CDLs in 2021. When President Biden addressed a dispute over driver shortage. Duffy says any state that continues to issue those CDLs to foreigners will lose their highway money. Sandra?
All right, William Marchioness on that for us. Thank you. John?
All right, let's dig deeper on this by bringing in the governor of the great state of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt. Governor, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you, at least the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and ICE conducted a joint operation in recent days where you arrested more than 125 illegal aliens, and you came up with a number of commercial drivers who seemed to have licenses that were issued improperly or illegally to them in sanctuary states. You found that, I think, 20% of commercial driver's licenses that you examined were awarded to illegal aliens. And I've been reading what you've been saying about this. You're pretty hot about this whole thing.
Yeah, when my head of Highway Patrol called me and we were talking about this operation, and to us, it's pretty simple. We're just going to enforce the law. And to drive on roads in Oklahoma, you've got to be able to read and understand English, especially the people driving 18-wheelers. So when he told me that he pulled over 520 vehicles at one of our checkpoints as an operation, and over close to 25% of these drivers were illegally driving. They were from China, Russia, Venezuela. It is unbelievable. And these aren't people that are here legally with a legal CDL. They had overstayed their visa. They had illegally obtained this CDL. And they're just violating the intent of the law and the absolute law. The one person that we posted on from New York had literally been detained at the southern border, crossing illegal in 2023, and then was just released. It was a catch and release type deal. And they showed up in New York and got their CDL license. And you saw that. It's had no given name. And I'm not trying to call anybody out. I think the American people need to understand.
Why wouldn't you, though? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. What's your name? Right? No name given. Here you go. Here you go. That truly just means in New York State, they do not care. 0 F's given. 0. None whatsoever. There you go. No name given? Seriously. How do you put that in the database? First name, no. Middle name, name. Last name, given? You know what I mean? Like you're a DMV person and you literally put that in because obviously you're allowed to code that in. It's not an option, not an issue. All right. Yeah. What's your address? Well, Sesame Street. I live on Sesame Street.
And this is a problem, and we have to be a law and order state and a law and order country.
We've got that license up, and let's put it back up on the screen again. As you pointed out, 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗏 showed it to his fine reporting, and here it is again. How does somebody receive a commercial driver's license that says no name given?
Well, that's what's, if you'll read the New York Post today, Richard Barth, who worked and was part of the policy that created the Real ID, and it's very clear, you've got to give your full name. You need multiple, documents that show either a social security number, a passport, maybe a utility bill. So that's what's a head scratcher to us, but these are real problems. And I can give you other examples of some human trafficking that we caught in Oklahoma. But I encourage every state to really look at the policy. I'm not trying to call out any governors, but if you have people in your state that are doing things, you've got to get on top of it, and we've got to be a rule of law country. And I think the American people expect to be safe on the roads, and we expect our 18-wheelers to be driven by people that can understand and read English. And you gave an example of down in Texas, the public safety issue and the major car wreck that killed some people, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And we need to fix immigration altogether. We need to have policies that if people are working here and there's an employer that wants to match the employee, we need to work on that. But we have to secure our border, and we have to make sure that people are here legally and they have a legal right to be here, and we know who they are and they've been properly vetted. And I think that's what the American people deserve and want.
Governor,
I would agree with them, but not here in Washington. That is not what they want. They want a bunch of virtue signaling, and anything that Trump supports, orange man bad. Anything the Republicans support is clearly from Satan himself, right? Because otherwise, why wouldn't you want to have the law followed? Such a head scratcher, right? Such a head scratcher. Just bizarre. Yeah. It's what you get when you live in Washington State. You get a bunch of just mental mush. Anyway, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.